Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. And just a reminder, we have a giveaway going all this week, so make sure you stay tuned until later in the video to learn how to enter. That said, let's get into our first malicious compliance of the day by Dame Invincible. You don't want me to speak in a foreign language? Okay. A little backstory. I live in India and there, each state has their own local language. My parents migrated from one state, West Bengal, to the current state, Gujarat, even before my birth, so I am fluent in my mother tongue, Bengali, as well as the local language, Gujarati, in addition to Hindi, which is kind of the national language. Fun fact, I said Hindi is kind of a national language because in India, 22 languages have the status of being official language, so we do not have a fixed national language. Now onto the story. This happened a few years ago. After graduating, I started learning French in a French government-affiliated institute while simultaneously working the front desk. So from admin staff to teachers and even the director of the institute knew me well. I was studying in the advanced class when the institute introduced a free demo session for promotional purposes, and some of the aspiring French teachers from the advanced level class were selected to assist the teacher in this class to get first-hand experience, including me. Each class just had a capacity of 5 people, reservation basis. Now, I was supposed to work my shift in the front desk and then go to the class to assist the faculty. So, between the two, I had a 15-minute window to stuff my face with some food. Our institute had a cafe which was managed by an ex-classmate of mine who also happens to be from my homeland. So I ordered a cup of coffee with a sandwich and sat down to chit-chat with him for a minute. On our next table was 5 Indian versions of Karens. Weirdly fitting clothes, way too much makeup, an odd sense of entitlement and complaining about everything. You see where this is going yet? I was talking to my friend in Bengali and these mother freakers tissed at us to grab our attention and went on a monologue about how us foreigners are ruining our sacred land. It should be mandatory to speak in the local language. And who knows what they are talking about. They may even be bullshitting and trash talking about us. The last one was, however, spot on, as by that point we had started joking about these ignorant beaches. Pun intended. This got them all agitated and the Queen Beach started getting louder saying, "Shame on you for speaking all this blah blah languages. You are in Gujarat, speak in Gujarati," and left after paying her bill and huffing and puffing with her sidekicks. I was so confused and irritated by this point, but shocked as this hasn't happened to me before. I simply paid for my snack and headed upstairs for the class. I met the head faculty in the hallway and recounted what just happened, laughed, and went into the class. Not even 2 minutes later, I see the 5 Karens entering the same room. I quickly whispered to my senior teacher that these were the morons and she whispers something back. We maliciously comply to the request and teach the entire hour-long French class in Gujarati. How? We wrote a word on the board and go on to explaining what it means in Gujarati without even pronouncing the word. They were bored, couldn't pronounce a single word, and didn't even understand most contexts. Around the end of the class, my teacher said something along the lines of, if everyone spoke their local languages in their local regions, then others would have never learned a new language. And then I added in a chirpy tone that, you would have had to visit France to learn French, but you are lucky to have our esteemed institute. Do consider joining us. The ladies slowly gathered their belongings and left the class. They didn't sign up for any program, but we believe they wouldn't have anyways. P.S. Do I or my senior teacher feel bad for not teaching them properly? A bit. Do we regret doing it? Nah. Yeah, I definitely think these ladies were being just insensitive and rude about somebody speaking a different language than them. That being said, if you could learn any language that you don't currently know, which language would you want to learn and why? Let me know in the comments down below. For me, it might be Spanish just because it's so prevalent in where I am. Our next story is by AmierSingle. Reception lady thinks my father doesn't know English? He gives her what she expects. This interesting encounter happened to my father sometime in the mid-90s. My family is Malaysian and my father worked as a civil engineer and still is. He led his company's hydro department and was responsible for contracting supplies for his turbine project. Looking for a supplier, a good college friend of his was the managing director of a turbine company based in Texas, and he personally invited my dad to meet and survey some products at his company there for his upcoming hydro project. Now, the thing about my family, and most Malaysians in general, is that we are fluent in English. It's our second language. And with my dad studying engineering in Sunderland for 4 years, I could definitely say his English is way above others. So my father and some of his employees took the trip from Kuala Lumpur to Houston, and the first thing they faced when entering the company's lobby was this American lady at the reception. She looked at my father's Asian complexion and condescendingly tried to take on a stereotypical Asian accent to attempt to communicate with him. My dad's coworkers behind him were all like, "Oh no, she didn't," and were embracing themselves for the inevitable comeback at this racist remark. Then, my dad smugly decided to play along and conversed with her in Asian broken English for roughly 15 minutes just to mess with her. Just as she was reaching her limit with him, the MD, her boss, came down to the lobby and enthusiastically greeted my dad from afar with, "Yo, OP's dad, you made it." My dad dropped the Asian act and returned his greeting out loud in completely fluent English. Confused and embarrassed, she became speechless and her face turned bright red in silence at the situation. The MD invites my dad upstairs to his office for the meeting, while my dad's workers were holding in their laughter as they followed him to the upstairs for the meeting. My dad later told his MD friend about the whole situation in the lobby, and the MD profusely apologized for her behavior. But my dad was a good sport and had fun messing with her. Later that month, my dad came back for another meeting and found out that the MD took no excuses from her and fired her that very same week for basically insulting their foreign customers. So yeah, I think the moral of the story is pretty simple. Just don't make assumptions on who you think somebody is just by their appearance. And I guess if you want to be a little bit more crude and blunt about it, you can say stop letting yourself fall into racist tendencies. I'm sure this lady felt like an absolute fool after the 15 minutes when it was revealed that this was a totally fluent person and she had just done something incredibly racist for the last 15 minutes in front of a group of them. And ultimately, it cost her job too. Our next story is by snaptech. Don't refuse a delivery on a holiday weekend. On mobile device, so the usual blah blah blah, was talking with an old boss that I used to work for. I'm at a different company now, but left on good terms, and remembered this. Background so people have an understanding. I drive semi, and at the time I worked for a dairy delivering milk and other products to grocery stores. All days were the same except for Saturday. On Saturday, my last stop was a Walmart, and I didn't like dealing with one of the people who checked in deliveries. They had 3 people who rotated being in charge on Saturday. So this happened early on a Saturday morning over Labor Day weekend in 2009. Because of the holiday weekend, stores took larger amounts than normal because of the holiday Monday. Everything went smoothly for the first 3 stops, but the last didn't. When I arrived at the docks that normally had 1 or 2 open, there was a line of trucks waiting. I wasn't surprised and don't mind waiting because I get paid for waiting. About a half an hour later, it was my turn to get a dock. So I backed in and then went inside to see the witch, as people called her. She was busy with a soda delivery, and I went about collecting the empty crates and put them on my trailer after pulling the incoming dairy to the trailer tail. Walmart loads of cooler or frozen items are temperature checked before being accepted. So you leave it on the trailer until they are ready to check your load in. So it's finally my turn to be checked in, and I open the trailer door and start pulling their order out. Witch says, "Put that back on your truck. I have beer and soda that need in first." I say I'm not leaving until you check it or refuse it, holding the invoice out to her. She signed and dated it refused with no reason for refusing. I put everything back on and secured it. Then pulled off the dock and parked out of the way, then took a picture of the invoice and texted my boss it before calling her. Told her what had happened, and I already know that the store will be out of milk this afternoon. Boss says, "So it was never attempted?" I say correct. So when they call later looking for the milk, tell them it was refused for no reason and check the cameras. Boss says, well, they're not getting any until Tuesday now. Don't worry, you're covered. So I took and put the product back into the plant cooler in good product return area. I didn't hear anything until Tuesday when I returned from that day's route. Boss said, you were right, they ran out about 2 in the afternoon and called in a panic. Told them what happened and I'm not paying a driver double time to fix their mistake. And check the security cameras. So Saturday comes and I expect to be cussed at by both the dock people and management of Walmart because of last weekend's disaster. Instead, I was greeted with smiles and thanks. The manager showed up also. It seems that that was the mistake that he was waiting for to fire the witch. You did it, OP. You managed to give enough reason to fire the person that everybody hated. The milk delivery man is justified on this day. The next story is written by ThatRandomGayKid. My friend isn't allowed to be the female in our play? No worries, I, male, will gladly swap places with her. Hello Reddit peeps, hope y'all doing amazing. So, I was reminiscing about the good old days with my friends the other night, and we got onto the topic of my best friend Mandy's ex-girlfriend. Now, this girl was, I guess you could say, a bit of a control freak. We'll call her Heather for this story. The name might make a bit more sense later on. She and Mandy dated for around a year or just over a year in secondary school, and she was a teeny bit possessive. She desperately tried to keep Mandy to herself. She'd grab Mandy's hand all the time, practically sit on her lap when they were around other people, and was just generally really clingy. Now, she wasn't clingy because she thought Mandy would leave her, it was more like she was marking her territory. Mandy and I have a running joke that we're like a little married couple. We've known each other since we were little kids and are both hella gay. Gay male here, by the way, hi. So we never saw each other in a romantic or sexual way, though this didn't stop Heather from being super jealous. She hated me for it. Eventually, Mandy broke up with her and she did not take it well. She only screamed at Mandy twice. The first was the day after they broke up, in front of everyone in the cafeteria, and the second will come later. She became occupied with spreading rumors about how Mandy and I were dating and how she broke up with Mandy because she caught us in bed together. She'd go out of her way to make Mandy miserable, though honestly she was just more annoying than anything else. Anyway, Mandy and I were both musical theater kids and were in the same theater group, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. We had decided to do a show that was a mashup of a bunch of different songs from a bunch of different musicals. There were kids doing songs from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Hairspray, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, Rent, pretty much all the big popular musicals. Mandy and I requested to do a duet and were immediately allowed. I was also playing Corny Collins for the Hairspray section, whilst Mandy was a backing dancer for the Hairspray part and Magenta for the Rocky Horror segment. We decided on Dead Girl Walking from the Heathers musical, hence her ex's name, as no one had suggested that one and it's a hella fun song to sing. So we were pretty excited to start practicing when it happened. Heather actually sent a link to the Broadway version of the song, where it's pretty obvious that JD and Veronica are getting it on, to Mandy's dad. He was not happy with his daughter being topless, wearing just her underwear and a short skirt, on stage, and it led to a whole argument with her parents that I'm not gonna get into. All you guys need to know is that Mandy's mom didn't have any issue with it and thought her dad was overreacting. To stop it escalating, Mandy reluctantly agreed not to go through with our original plan. Heather loved this and made comments about how she was buying a ticket to see the show just to make sure you kids are behaving, and threatened to report back to Mandy's dad if we did our original routine. I believe the dad's words were along the line of, "Under no circumstances will my daughter be on stage in a bra and pants," which was a bummer and we thought it'd be pretty funny, and the song just kinda doesn't seem the same if you're just standing there singing it. Then we had an idea. A very amusing, very petty idea. And we started planning. We talked it through with the drama teacher and Mandy's mom, and they both thought it was great, as long as we could change out of the costumes and clothes in time for our other performances, and we agreed. Mandy's dad had said that he didn't want Mandy on stage in a bra and skirt. He didn't say anything about me. We were just doing what her dad said after all. He'd been insistent that she switch places with someone, and, well, she kinda did. We planned it for weeks. Mandy worked on getting a skin-toned vest and chest binder that she could wear when she played JD, even going as far as drawing on some abs to make it look more realistic. And I set about choosing makeup, finding padding, and getting my skirt sorted for playing Veronica. We've both done drag a couple of times for plays and Halloween events, so we were quite familiar with it. We were kindly reminded by Heather that she had her ticket bought and couldn't wait to see the show. It was gonna be great. Heather got mad when she saw someone standing too close to Mandy. Imagine her surprise when she came to a show, expecting to see Mandy and I standing awkwardly singing at opposite sides of the stage, but instead saw us in drag pretending to be getting it on whilst singing a pretty darn suggestive song. I should point out that we had both not long turned 18 and this was not a school event, so it wasn't exactly as if we were minors or breaking any school rules. Thankfully, we had around 3 or 4 songs between our dead girl walking performance and our other songs, so we had plenty of time to get changed. When the time came, we were absolutely giddy. We peeked out from behind the curtain and, sure enough, Heather was there looking absolutely smug as she thought she'd ruined the performance for us. The curtain came up and I stepped on the stage in my skirt and blazer and began singing Veronica's part of the song, having to contain my laughter at the look of confusion on Heather's face. It was even more of a struggle when her face turned from confusion to anger when I strutted over to where Mandy was, straddling her, and we both struggled to not laugh at the look of horror that was no doubt on Heather's face. I'm a lot shorter than Mandy and our makeup and costumes were done really well, so to the people in the back, we probably would have passed as the opposite gender. We savored every single second of that performance, even looking over to Heather with a smug look every now and then and made sure to exaggerate Yaz at the end, which left Heather looking absolutely mortified. Her face was absolutely priceless. After the performance, we rushed off to get changed for the next song. Pretty easy seeing as we'd taken off most of our clothes on stage. The show went absolutely perfectly and we enjoyed a little drink afterwards. Again, we were both 18, no underage drinking here. I later found out that once Mandy got home, she received a furious call from Heather calling her promiscuous and asking how she could do this to her. Mandy just replied that she was on stage in a pair of shorts and a vest. How was that promiscuous? She reminded her that they weren't a couple anymore. We got a lot of death glares from Heather after that, but she seemed to have stopped with the rumors and we haven't spoken to her after we left school. I guess they really mean it when they say that the show must go on. Even though Mandy's father wanted nothing to do with her doing that kind of provocative play on stage, OP decided, well fine, I'll do the provocative part. I think that's wonderful, honestly. So quickly now, I just want to give you info on the giveaway. So if you want to be in with a chance to win $30 in Amazon gift cards, all you have to do is leave a comment pertaining to something you saw in the video on any video we've uploaded this week, and I will pick a winner from a random video on Sunday night after the last video has gone out and announce it on Monday's video. So feel free to comment on every video from the week to better your chances of winning. Again, I do want to stress that the comment has to be related to the video, so you can't just leave a random comment and expect to win. And whilst you're at it, why not like the video because it helps more than you know. That said, let's get to our final story of the day by Bars1255, Little Sister Tries to Outsmart My Parents. This is a short one from when my youngest sister was 4 or 5 years old. So a bit of context. I was 5 when my sister was born. When I was growing up, with a few exceptions, I was an easy child and would listen to rules fairly well. My sister, not so much. She was a handful. This means that where my parents could say a rule to me, I would listen and obey it, knowing what they meant. So my parents had a rule, just like most parents, about holding a hand when crossing the street. My sister didn't like this rule. She didn't like having to wait for everyone to get out of the car, stop talking, etc. So her little 4 or 5-year-old brain processed that the rule said, a hand, without specifying whose hand. One day she got out of the car, walked to the side of the road, held her left hand with her right hand, and started crossing the street. My parents thought it was hilarious, but did tell her to hold one of their hands when crossing. Unfortunately, she didn't stop doing it until she pulled this stunt one day in front of a car and I had to run and pull her away. After that, we would grab her hand as soon as she was out of the car and not let go until we were inside. Well, I'm certainly glad nothing happened with the car, but that tells you why, even though it's cute, that should not be tolerated. It's all about safety. Even though the rule might stink for the child, it's all about keeping the little ones safe. But that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know in the comments down below which one and why. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe and turn notifications on. All of those things help the channel so immensely, so thank you no matter what you did. Whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, whatever you do, thank you so much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I'll see you all next time right here.